Hello again, economics students. So we need to understand which things, or non-price factors, or sometimes called supply factors, will cause the supply curve to shift. Here they are. You can read them. Let's get into them. So these things will affect a firm's ability and willingness to produce. They'll either make businesses, or not a business, all businesses in the market more willing and able to produce, or less willing and able to produce. And of course, if you're more willing and able to produce, that's represented by a shift of the supply curve to the right. And if you're less willing and able to produce, there's a shift in the supply curve to the left. If we put this a different way, there's an increase or a decrease in the quantity supplied at each and every price. So we need to be thinking, what would make suppliers in a market want to supply more or less at each and every price? Now, the first thing is costs of production. And so far we've kind of said, or I've said, let's assume that costs stay the same. But what if they changed? What if there was an increase in labour costs, raw materials, electricity, even a change in the tax rate? Anything that will increase a firm's cost of production, or firms, plural, cost of production, will make them less willing and able to supply. A decrease in quantity supplied at each price, and you guessed it, a shift in the supply curve to the left. All those three things mean the same thing, and vice versa. So if there's a decrease in cost of production, more willing and able to supply. You can fill this out here. I just went through that. So the next one is productivity. Now, productivity is a really important concept in economics. It's a measure of outputs per inputs. And this factor is really, or productivity is just really linked to the cost of production. Because if you can produce more with the same amount of inputs, so the outputs are greater with the same amount of inputs, then that's really just decreasing your cost per unit. Let's use a silly example. Now, let's imagine you worked at the pizza shop like I did when I was younger, and imagine you get paid $10 per hour, which is pretty much what I got paid, and you can produce 10 pizzas per hour. Pretty terrible, right? Okay, what we're really saying here is in terms of labor costs for a business, that's $1 in labor costs per pizza. Okay, of course there are other costs, but let's just assume now $1 per pizza. However, if I improved, if I had a Red Bull before work, which I often had to do back in the day, or something maybe more sustainable, like some proper training about how to actually make pizzas, then I'd be able to produce more pizzas per hour. Or in economics terms, we'd say there's an improvement in productivity. So let's say I now produce 20 pizzas per hour. It's amazing. Now think what happens to the cost per pizza. You don't need to know the amount, but 20 pizzas per hour, I still get paid $10 per hour. So they've decreased, right? The cost per pizza is now 50 cents, $10 divided by 20 pizzas. Okay, so productivity growth, an improvement in productivity, e.g. an increase in output for pizzas per hour worked, which isn't the inputs, right, actually decreases costs of production. So we can now link this to what we just learned in the last slide. If there's an improvement in cost of production, in productivity, there's a decrease in cost of production, and firms are more willing and able to produce. So we've got to think about this silly little example across the whole economy, across all our labour. The next one is technology, and technology is linked to productivity, which is linked to cost of production, because what we're trying to do with technology is to improve or increase the outputs with the inputs that we have. Okay, so we're trying to improve productivity. We're trying to produce more. Let's use that pizza example again. Now, technology has improved a lot since I worked at a pizza shop. Now, if we look at someone like Domino's, they've got this automated process for how they make pizzas. They've improved productivity a lot, which means they can produce more pizzas per hour. Okay, so an improvement in technology improves productivity, decreases cost of production, and you guessed it, increases supply. And of course, vice versa. All right, climate is really, and climate is really mainly for our agricultural industry. So it's pretty simple. If we have good weather, good growing conditions, good rain, good sun, we're going to produce more. All our agricultural businesses are going to produce more fruit and vegetables, okay? And vice versa. You can fill that one out there. And the last one, which is a new supply factor, is the number of suppliers. Again, it's very simple. If you have more suppliers enter a particular market, then there's likely to be more quantity supplied at each price, shifting the supply curve to the right, and vice versa. Think about something like the Deliveroo, Uber Eats, and Foodora market, whatever that's called the food delivery service, the more suppliers that came into that market, the supply curve shifts to the right, and as we're going to see, that puts downward pressure on prices. Okay, so hopefully now we understand the factors that will shift the supply curve. Just to recap, we've got cost of production, productivity, technology, climate, and the amount of suppliers. Bye for now.